How about now? There we are. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Metro AV Tech Tips. We have...
I'm Brent.
I'm Adam.
And once again...
We've got Austin.
And who didn't turn off their phone?
You did.
That would be you, Brent.
Well, by golly, it was me. Now I sound like Jeremy Clarkson. Who left their phone on?
Who left their phone on? All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us today on today's Tech Tips. We have a fun episode ahead of us today. If you've been here, what was it, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, that we had our, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had our first episode of TechHouse, where we're going through and talking about the different, Austin from Infinity Home Tech has graciously allowed us to come along for the ride. And
it will be an interesting ride.
It will definitely be an interesting ride. I'm really looking forward to it. But this is part two. We realized that we needed more time to go over the blueprints, and especially because we have so many different things happening at this house.
And ideas on how it should happen.
That's right. So before we get into that, though, thank you, everybody, for watching today's episode. As always, like, share, subscribe, hit the little bell notification to let you know whenever we do go live, which, of course, hey, it's my turn. To let you know whenever we do go live, which, of course, is every Wednesday at 3 p.m.
And we may have
Eastern
audio
time.
then.
Possibly, yeah. Again, your microphone is just so ridiculously loud. Then, on top of that, everybody, make sure that you come back on Friday, where we're going to talk about a product that we have that goes along with today's episode. Now, this Friday, I think specifically, we're talking about the ASP603W. It's a little bit of a stretch for today's episode. I'll be perfectly honest with you. But today's episode, we're talking about lighting specifically, and we don't necessarily have a lighting product. So because of that, this is something that we wanted to talk about that's a little different.
But it is a power product.
But it is a power product. So we'll come back this Friday where we're going to be talking about the ASP603W. And on top of that, of course, if you were watching this, I don't know if I said it or not on this take or not, but leave your comments down in the chat section down below or in the comment section. Or sorry, chat is over on this side, or leave it down in the comment section below if you're watching this after the fact. And of course, we do monitor those comments and chats and stuff and everything for that as well. So,
and with a lot of interesting stuff coming up, I will be in Spain.
Barcelona.
May 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th.
That's right.
Very much looking forward to that for anybody that's going to ISE, and I hope some of you are. Then Adam's got vacation, and then Infocom.
That's right. Yeah, Infocom is at the 1st of June. And
I will believe you.
Yeah. It's I don't remember the dates exactly. In fact, I'll have to get that for whoever's watching. But yeah, we'll be here. We'll be at Infocom. And then of course we've got CEDIA coming up in September.
End of September.
End of
right.
September, yeah.
Yeah.
In October, yeah.
Are you going to be able to make it to any of the shows this year?
Yeah, we'll be at CEDIA for sure.
Awesome. Very cool.
You're going to Spain? To Barcelona?
I wish. I was going to say I'd tag along with you, but I don't think I can handle you for that long.
You know, you should talk to your boss. He may let you go.
It is. I'm just warning you. It is like what, a 10-hour flight from Orlando to Barcelona.
Ask Mo about that.
With a couple stops. So that, and then 10 hours back. So depending on who you're riding with. So, okay. So with that, I think that what we should do is go ahead and just kind of get right into today's topic and jump back into the blueprints a little bit. Do you have the blueprints up? Do you have what we looked at last time?
Yeah, so I was going to ask you, where do you want to start? Do you want to pull up the print that we had last time, or do you want to jump straight into the lighting print?
I want to jump into what your intentions with the lighting are, not the print yet, but what do you want to accomplish? And what is your path to accomplish your goal? We can look at the prints once we know what he wants to do.
Well, and this is actually something else to consider as well. The stage that you're in right now, you haven't fully decided what to do or what brand to go with yet. So we're kind of in the position now where you're still finding the best solution for this project.
Yep.
And so you're looking for, what's going to be the best fit, not necessarily because, and to be, blunt about it, it is a demo house. And so whoever you go with will be in the demo house for that. But you really, you do still have to treat it as though it's a consumer, right?
Sure.
You have to find the best one for that job.
So one of the areas where we've kind of taken a different, look on this project is we haven't gotten into fixtures in the past. Mm-hmm. As a low voltage integrator and custom integrator, we've always done lighting control, but we personally as Infinity never got into the actual selling of the product itself, the actual light fixtures in the house. And that's something that we wanted to do in the demo house, is we want to actually be involved in every step of that process. So not just controlling the light, but also providing the light in the house. So that was one of the big key things that we wanted to keep in mind when picking a product is We want to use something that we can sell to our customers and then just work closely with the electrician on the actual installation phase of that. So that has been different. It's not just tying in can lights into tying in existing lights to a control system.
That does make things different, right? When you have a chance to actually build it from scratch to where you can decide where is everything going. Are you going to put, and it comes down to, again, style and technology of controlling the different cans or different lighting fixtures. But like you said, it also doesn't restrict you because it's not something that's pre-existing of, can you get some kind of control to that location, right?
Yep.
So this is it almost gives you too many options, right? It almost makes it difficult because you have so many options.
There's so many different options you can go, and really it's just figuring out what makes the most sense overall, from a control aspect. What companies work with each other, what companies already integrate with our control system that we're using, and which in this case is Control 4.
Right.
So that's all stuff to keep in mind when we're talking about lighting.
I'm going to have to assume you've taken the blueprints and submitted them to several different lighting fixture manufacturers.
Yeah, so that's actually a good point. We are not lighting designers. I can't tell you where to put cans into a house. I don't, there's a method to that that's not me. So we start with the blueprints from the designer. The designer does the initial lighting design as part of the, their process, designer / architect. And then we take that and kind of ask for our manufacturers to help us tweak that and make it better, because the architect is not necessarily a lighting designer. They know generally where to put cans, but it might not be perfect. So unless you have a true lighting designer on staff, that's again where we rely on the other manufacturers to help us, or we contract a third-party lighting designer specifically to help on that.
Now, how many different manufacturers are you working with to come up with the solution for this job?
So we've reached out to a handful of companies. It's really just determining who has the best product. So really what we've narrowed down is we want full color. So we want basically tunable white, and we want the ability to do color if you were hosting an event, a party, it's a holidays. So we want to be able to add color into certain areas. So that's really the biggest things that we've kept in mind. A lot of the companies will do warm dim products. So basically the color temperature as you dim the lights will get more warm. That's really not what we want in this case. We want to be able to actually say we want 3,500 Kelvin or 5,000 or 4,000 and be able to change that on a real-time basis, not just from a dimming perspective.
So that actually kind of puts you into one of the things you were talking about was the ability to choose different colors. So you've got the RGB capabilities, you've got the color or the white, tunable white anyway. So you can go from a cool white to a warm white. When you get into choosing, and I guess we'll get into that as we look at the design and the layout of the project again, but you kind of have to look at it. One, with a demo house, it's a little different because obviously you have the entire, you want to showcase what everything is possible in every single area. But then on top of that, you have also the knowledge and the understanding that the average person who's going to come to you, or the average customer that's coming to you, may not be willing to spend RGB money in the garage versus RGB money in the great room.
Yeah. Unless you're going just no expense spared, you're not going to most likely do, a full color in every single space in the house. So it's figuring out what areas in the house make sense to have that. And then what areas, like, hey, in the garage, we can probably do a static white product and, call it 5,000 Kelvin. We like the nice daylight in the garage. It's going to be bright. Just put a lot of fixtures, and just get a good quality can versus full color.
Now, are either of you doing RGB anywhere in your home, inside or outside now?
Personally, I'm not. Other than just I have I think I've got some like outdoor lighting that's just in the garden just outside the front door, and so it's just kind of shining at the small palm trees that I have there. Other than that, I'm not really doing anything in the house. I was looking at doing something above the cabinets, or like, you know, for the kickboards underneath the cabinets, but personally not. That's really as far as I'm taking it.
I'm doing DMX on the outside so I can change the color on the wall wash based on the season, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Then I've also got additional fixtures. While they're RGB, are primarily white, so if it gets triggered by the motion sensor in the driveway, the path lights up. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. And I've got some RGBs in the house that act as a nightlight. That if they're in a low blue or low green or low red, give you a glow to wander around without keeping you awake, which is awesome.
Yeah. So in my house, all the interior is static white, and then exterior. Actually, our mutual friend Ben from ProLux,
who we had on the show a while back.
Yep, he's been on the show, I know, and we have their Spectrum lights on all the exterior. So we have their sconces everywhere exterior, and those are actually, it's like a Bluetooth mesh system, I believe, and then that's full color.
So that's really handy also, because the Bluetooth mesh, that technology is great because you don't have to run any new wiring. You just plug it into, or screw it into the location where they were originally, and then now you just use the Bluetooth connection to it to control it. You know, makes life a heck of a lot easier. You don't have to run anything new. So very cool. So let's do this then. Let's go. Do you have the blueprints from last time where we can kind of do an overview of the house, or can we do? Oh, perfect. Yeah, let's do that.
So this is the lighting print. Yep. So it's easier to show you this because we've already got it up. And Adam, I'll let you drive here. I'll let you kind of take it. So for everybody that tuned in on our last episode, this print is going to look familiar, except the last print we had speakers on it. We had some TV locations figured out, and that's pretty in cameras, I think is what was on the last print. So this print is actually the electrical drawing. So that's what we started with from the architect, and then we were able to figure out in what areas we want.
So one more time, just to kind of go over the layout of the house again. Of course, we've got the I don't have the pen turned on here on this one. And
just double tap.
There it is. So in here, of course, we've got the garage down here in this area, and you've got your entryway here. Let's get rid of this guy here. You've got the great room in this area here, which is nice because you've got the kitchen, you've got the dining room, you've got the living room in this space. You've got two guest rooms over here and here with a shared bathroom in between. Yep. You've got the master suite in this area over here. So we've got the master bedroom, master bathroom, walk-in closet. You've got the utility room, which of course has the washer and dryer and everything in it. And then from there, this is actually just a guest suite. From there is in this space here. And then, of course, you go upstairs, up the stairs, like so, into this meeting room, theater room space. Now, last time we talked about this, we were talking about the idea of, instead of doing a meeting room specifically in there, doing it like actually setting it up more like a theater. Was that decided on from last time?
I think we're going to go with Brent's suggestion and add some more speakers. Instead of just being a 5.1 system, we might throw some speakers in for Atmos or some additional surround channels. We haven't decided if we're going to flip the room or not. I know that was discussed last time.
Very nice.
But we're definitely going to put some more speakers in place there.
Very cool.
So can you go back to the garage for a second?
Yeah, definitely. Let's take a look here and see what this looks like. What you got?
As I'm looking at the garage, is that 2 light fixtures and a couple outlets, or 4 light fixtures?
It looks like what you've got is there's actually, and actually we should probably go over the legend of what you've done here.
Oh yeah, because tell me about the green.
Yeah.
All right, so
easier for us to see. So looking at all this here, and you know better than I do as what everything's laid out. I'll start here because it looks like that kind of has mostly everything there.
Yep.
So we've got the red circles. What are the red circles?
Yeah, I don't know how well the color comes through on camera for everybody, but this is kind of broken out in. We kind of labeled rooms on what we think is necessary. So the red are the areas that we would like full color. So that means our RGB as well as tunable white in those spaces.
Gotcha. So we just from this view here, of course, it's in other areas, but we have it, of course, in the great room. Pretty much every light fixture in the great room is a full color
Correct. So the reasoning behind where we put those is really our main entertaining spaces or our main living areas. So basically the kitchen, the living room, the dining room, as well as the outside lanai, all being able to do color tuning, as well as you'll notice into the entryway of the house.
Yeah, this is actually really nice here. You've actually got it on the outside and the inside of the entryway.
Correct.
So you greet the visitors with color as they come up to the house, and then that of course leads into the rest of the space.
Now, with any product that we decide, regardless of manufacturer, all of these lights are going to be independently addressable, meaning they can all be the same color or they could all be different colors. So just because, all the fixtures are in the living room, we could do, red, green if you weren't doing like a Christmas theme. They don't necessarily have to be the same color. So I don't know if that's worth pointing out.
That actually is really handy because you don't have to do, it's not like they're all in series. You can control individually the individual light loads or fixtures, what color you want them to be. Now, is that, and not to get into specifics of brands right now, but is that the case across most brands out there that do this?
Yeah, any product that we're going to look at would have independently addressable fixtures.
Now, do you see, and actually this is kind of a little bit of a question for myself, do you see this type of lighting? Because when I think of centralized lighting, when I think of, controlled lighting systems, I think of what like Crestron, Vantage, Control 4, what they have and have had for quite a while now, where it's just everything's centralized into the either the equipment closet or the lighting panels, and you have a light switch on the wall that's maybe low voltage where there's not actual current running through that switch.
Correct.
It's just being controlled, and then you can do extra programming and stuff for it. But what we're getting into here, this is more like we can do RGB, we can do full color, we can do individually identified light fixtures. I mean, we're getting really far out there with capabilities now.
Yeah, so the thing is here is really you're going to build most of this into scenes. So you could have some party scenes, you could have some holiday scenes. So it's not like we don't really think people are going to take the time to open up their phone every day to like, oh, I want that one orange, I want this one purple. Like,
sure,
that's just not realistic. Can you do it? Sure. It's more of just building those scenes and then having those keypads and those scenes accessible to the customer, whether that be via Josh AI from voice control, make the room this color, or if you want to have a physical cooking scene, entertaining scene, multi-button presses, you can really get kind of crazy on the programming side.
Right. So you actually get it's, for the most part, it's you're going to be working in scenes, but the ability to go in and do the individual lighting loads and changing them there is there. Now, Brent, you know where I'm going with this already. Our mutual client that we work with, one of the things that they have had as a request for the longest time was the ability to control individual loads. Or it's not necessarily a request for a long time. It's really more of just this has become a requirement and I want it this way. Which is understandable. For someone who actually takes enjoyment from designing lighting scenes, it can become,
Which is why we have
6
panels at 60 plus loads per panel.
Per panel. That's right. Yeah, exactly. So having it to where you can set them up to the individual lighting loads where it's not, because this isn't centralized panels.
It's not. And actually, I think that's important to address. Anybody that's familiar looking at electrical drawings, this does show wiring on here. And basically for this demonstration, ignore any of the wiring it is, because that's what the architect put in. This would be like a traditional lighting system. So you see the cans will run over to, to a switch on the wall. That's not the case with how the system will actually be wired. We're just looking at this from a placement of the cans and what type of can we're doing, whether it be full color.
And can you give us a quick overview of what the color codes represent that we're seeing here?
Yeah, so we started. So red is going to be our full color.
Yep.
Basically tunable, and that's going to be your main living areas as well as the master. The blue and the green are both a static white product. So 3000 Kelvin just fixed white is most likely the the color temperature we would go with.
So blue, we're talking like these light loads over here.
Correct.
And then from there, we also would have the green out here in the garage.
Yeah, and the green in the garage, one of the manufacturers.
That's not a garage.
What is that?
That's a bedroom.
No. You're lagged.
Oh.
Look at in front of you.
Look at the big one. There you go. No, so the different manufacturers are slightly different.
Yeah,
right?
so the green and the blue could be interchangeable. The green on this print, a lot of the fixtures have the ability to adjust color temperature on the fixture itself. So more of a set it and forget it. But in my opinion, I like daylight in the garage, so I'm going with a 5,000 Kelvin product in the garage.
Right, which
and lots of fixtures. If we can put 50 fixtures in the ceiling in the garage, that's what we're going to do. We can always dim the light. You can't add more light.
Right, exactly. So in this case, put a lot of light in the garage. And in the garage, again, in most cases, you're going to set it to that daylight color or temperature, and you're not going to touch it again. You're going to leave it there.
Yeah, and for us, the garage is an area that we don't necessarily see the value of doing a full color product.
Agreed. I've run 5,000 in mine. I've got 6 fixtures in a small 2-car, and it's great.
Yeah. So then from the green, of course, we go over here to, is that purple or pink?
So the purple or the pink, that was basically a tunable white product.
Okay.
So if you're going, a lot of the companies have tunable white. Just calling out brands here, like if you were to go with a Ketra product, they don't make a tunable white. It's either Ketra or not. So it would either be a warm dim product where it's going to dim as the color temperature is going to change as you dim it.
Right.
Or if it was Ketra, you would need, basically that would become a red light.
So, and actually talking about this a little bit, Ben from Prolux, when we had him on the episode with us, pardon me, one of the things that he talked about was how when LEDs dim, they dim differently than how an incandescent light will dim. Because as you dim an incandescent light, it gets warmer. It doesn't stay the same temperature as it dims. So whereas with LED, it's going to keep that same temperature the entire way through. It's dim, but now they're able to make it to where it fluctuates just like an incandescent would.
To emulate it.
To emulate it, yeah.
And so why we like the idea of a tunable white, and say like you're looking at the master closet right there. It's being able to look at your clothes in different types of light.
That's very true, and actually that makes a lot of sense. My wife and I right now have started she started to do some resale stuff where she goes out and buys clothing and stuff to then turn around and sell. And when you're standing in someone's driveway looking at it at the garage sale, it looks completely different than when you take it home and you put it underneath a fluorescent light or something.
Well, I think everybody's heard Brent do the analogy. You talk 16.7 million colors when you start talking about video. How many different shades are on your shirt. It's kind of the same thing. So it's just different lights accentuate that differently.
Let's take it a step further. You've been married for 10 years now?
12.
12. Does your wife have the daylight, nighttime, and dusk mirror with the 3 different settings on it?
No, not yet. She hasn't really looked at that one yet. So far, she's just used, we have a big window in our bathroom. And so luckily she just
One
goes
of the
to
things
window.
that's not uncommon for women is to have the tunable filters on a countertop mirror so they can determine what their makeup's going to look like in different environments.
Right.
Because it does change dramatically. Well, just look at this room when we were setting up in here.
Very true.
With the accent lights that they don't see looking at us versus the original lighting.
Yeah. And if you go back and look at the last show that we did in here, it looks very different. We actually we didn't have our video team. They were off site doing some other stuff, and so I had to kind of throw it together. But luckily they came in this time and gave us some better lighting in here, and it's, as far as I can tell, it makes a huge difference.
So basically, like what you said, this is just taking it a step further, and it's becoming part of the design versus an afterthought.
Which is very smart. I do have a couple of questions looking at your design.
Okay.
As we look at the hallway right off of the great room, if you'll go to the right on the drawing.
Go over here, hit the right button.
You've got a couple of static lights in that hallway right off the great room.
Yep.
I would not do that.
I
would have those colored because otherwise it's going to stand out.
You're talking over here as you go into the bedrooms?
Yeah, that hallway just in front of the bedroom.
Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So those should be the same color right there, as should the ones if you go back to the left.
Let's go back to the left.
Just past the kitchen, and that hallway If that door's, that's a door into the master suite though, isn't it? That's not
No.
an independent hallway.
Well, no, that is the the hallway where it comes into the kitchen.
So you're talking
the
right
garage.
in this space here where I'm drawing, right? Yeah.
I guess my pushback on you, Brent, would be 9.5 times out of 10, those are going to be whites.
Absolutely, but you want them to be the same caricature, whether it's white, pink, red, or blue,
Sure.
doesn't matter.
I can appreciate that because if I'm, if you're entertaining or whatever it is and you decide to change out to a different, color in that area, if someone's standing at the island looking at somebody who's standing by the refrigerator, it's going to be a different color down that hallway. And so it's going to change, the overall aesthetic of
Okay,
it.
let's take a separate step on this. You're designing a theater room.
Sure.
You're putting in an Atmos system.
Sure.
Are you going to put in different brands of speakers?
That's not a fair question.
Oh,
Because
but
I
it
did-
is.
But here's the thing. I did.
And what were the results?
I was inexperienced, and I thought it sounded amazing. And to my credit, it did sound really good, but it didn't sound as good as it could.
When you're looking at lighting, it's just like sound.
Mm-hmm.
Light is just visible sound. It's a timbre that you want from fixture to fixture to fixture.
Right.
So you want everything the same manufacturer. Anything that's within a visible grouping. If I'm standing in this room and I can look down a hallway, or I can look in the kitchen, or I can look in the dining room, as you know from the house that you and I work on together,
Yes.
how important keeping everything the same is. Because if it's in a visible group, and if it's not controlled as such, it still needs to be treated as such.
Now, this actually plays into your choice of manufacturer as well, because if I understood correctly, there's one manufacturer that you kind of have to choose which fixture you're using versus the other one, which has basically one type of fixture where it's only color, where that's it. You get the one that's either full functionality or nothing. Is that right? Did I hear you correctly?
Yeah, so basically you're either choosing between a static color or full color. There's not a tunable white necessarily.
Right.
And that's just a decision that needs to be made. Do you want tunable white independently from full color? Obviously there's a cost difference there. So
Well, and that takes us to the next one. What is the cost difference for an RGBW versus a tunable white?
Off
Am
the
I
top-
pushing my luck?
I have no clue.
Okay, I'm pushing my luck.
Yeah, just a little bit. Now, there's one thing that we didn't talk about yet in this layout also. Right in this space here, we, of course, have these runs along these areas here. And I'm assuming, again, this is like a tray ceiling.
Yep.
And then we have it, again, here around the island. And then it looks like underneath the island as well.
Yep. So if you read right above the island in the kitchen.
That right there.
Yes.
There it is.
So in the kitchen, you're going to have toe kick above cabinet and under cabinet around the island, and then you have the tray in the kitchen as well.
And I can
So that'll be linear lighting.
I can certainly say, based on, again, our mutual job, the toe kick lighting and the above cabinet lighting become a lot more important than you really think about.
Yeah. Now,
And those will be full spectrum as well. So those,
full color.
yeah, full color.
So you get your full option on that of what you want it to be. Now, one thing I will say, when we put in the lighting over at that house,
job,
what we noticed was that the flooring was shiny, so you can see the individual.
You need to put in lenses.
You need to put in,
we did,
really okay,
but it's still
It
now
still
it
did
isn't
that.
in the 3 years since we've done that. What they have done with lighting is substantial.
There has been a quite big
Everything
increase.
we did 3 years ago is effectively antiquated now.
Yeah, call Ben. He'll help you out.
Call Ben. So this is actually really cool because what I like about this type of indirect lighting, and with the light strips and or the LED strips or whatever you want to call it, what did you call it? The linear lighting?
Linear lighting. So
Sure.
That is the correct phrase.
Linear lighting. The linear lighting that you have in this area, what's nice about it is that it's more indirect, which means that you don't have to have a light shining directly at you. And in fact, you can't really see, but our lighting or our video team that helped us out this time around, the lights that we have in here that are helping us out, they're not shining directly on us. They're actually bouncing off of the ceiling and giving us this nice glow, this nice diffused light in this space. Which really, it really does make a difference.
Does wonders for my tan.
It really does. But what I like about it is that's a brilliant way of doing night lights. I have young children who for the most part, they sleep in a dark room, but in the kitchen or in the central area, I like to have some kind of light that at least is a pathway for them to get to the bathroom, to get to us, to get to, a drink of water, whatever it may be.
So I'll tell you a benefit of Ketra specifically
Yeah.
is they tune down to 0.1%.
0.1%.
That's excellent because at least the stuff I've dealt with, 10% is typically the
10%
bottom.
is typically, and then if you get even to 10% in a lot of cases, if
Little
they're
flickering.
inexpensive fixtures, you might get flickering, or one fixture might turn off and the other one's still on. So that's one of the really cool things of Ketra is nobody goes down that far and does it accurately as well. So no buzzing in the fixtures or anything like that.
Right.
The buzzing is a bit of an issue too, particularly with control systems. Now, in reference to talking with your kids,
Yeah.
I do the same thing with an RGB in the house just as a nightlight.
Mm-hmm.
So something happens, I have to get up. I'm not tripping over stuff because when you're old, you trip, you fall, you break, you stay broken.
Yeah. You don't want to do that.
And then I think I said 0.1%. It's 0.9. So it's
It's
0.9.
effectively
It's
1%,
It's 1%.
which is still incredibly low.
Well, it really is, and that was something that going back to my Control 4 training, when one of the things that we were taught in Control 4 is that if you're using one of their dimmers, they're just light switch dimmers that they have. If you're using those with an LED, in many cases they're like you're never going to get it to be anything under. Usually it's like 5% or something like that because the LED bulb itself or the fixture. It doesn't know what to do with that low
The driver
power.
just shuts off.
and the cheaper the light, the worse it gets.
Right, exactly. And so now with a system like this, where if you're talking 0.9%, I mean, you're going under a 1%, which is effectively a 1%.
Yep.
But at that level, again, it creates that nice thing to where you can have it super low level. It's bright enough to where maybe it's enough light for them to get out of bed, get a drink of water, make it to the bathroom, whatever it is. But then it's not on super bright. You don't have it to where it's glaring or anything like that.
Yep.
This would probably actually work really well also in a theater application.
Great in a theater.
Do you have it in the theaters? You do?
Well, we don't really have a theater. I mean, so this is more of a flex space, really a round table office environment. But if that was your media room, then yes. And there is linear lighting in there for the tray.
Now, in this space here, you've got the stairwell. Is there anything special happening in the stairwell?
Not planned.
Okay.
That could change if we wanted to do something specific, but nothing in the design as of right now.
Now, are those fixed or are those dimmable fixtures?
In this drawing, it looks like they're fixed.
Everything will be dimmable, but they're not tunable.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they'd be a static white product.
And again, you've got the closet up here. Put this back on. You've got this closet up here, and even in that closet, you kept the tunable white in that one. That's kind of interesting because if this ever becomes like an ensuite or like a mother-in-law suite or something like that, if someone's going to have their clothing in there, again,
Exactly. That's the thought
option.
process.
Have you considered pin lights along the stairs?
No.
You might want to consider pin lights along the stairs.
So pin lights being like the footlights that are on
Yeah,
the
the small
side.
round ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing we haven't considered is any type of track lighting or anything like that, which will probably get incorporated as we make a decision and know.
I can tell you from personal experience, put in lots of individual loads for art lights.
Well, that's the thing with all of these products is every single light is independently addressable.
I understand that, but you have to plan for the power to these locations.
So one thing that and going to what you're talking about, one thing that I find interesting as well is the idea of putting in like the rest of the electrical in the house, right? So we're talking about lighting right now, and that's fine, but what ties into that also would be lamps and whatever else. What's the plan there, or is there a plan there?
Yes. So if you do lamps, most of these products have a bulb.
A bulb, okay.
That you can do in them. That would be the main thing. I also think it's important to talk about how these products are actually wired, because these tunable products, regardless of the manufacturer, it's either Dmx Control or Ketra. I mean, those are really the two different types. Now, there's many brands that can offer the DMX, but Ketra is obviously a Lutron-based product.
Have you looked at KNX or?
No.
KNX is mostly a European.
Well, it's pretty much, it's not a European, it's everywhere but us.
Everywhere, yeah, that's kind of what it comes
Pretty
down
much
to.
everywhere but
So
us.
where these products differ from a traditional lighting system is, a traditional light, you've got your can light and it goes over to the wall switch and then that gets fed from your power. Then you have panelized lighting, which is basically, we call it getting rid of the wall acne. So now we are putting a low voltage keypad on the wall to control the on and off, and then the fixtures are getting wired to our panel, which actually has our dimming modules in it
Traditional
somewhere.
centralized lighting.
Traditional centralized lighting. And then you have this. So in these situations, the fixtures actually get wired hot. So they don't go to a panel to a dimmer. All the dimming is done within the fixture itself.
Right.
And then they just get wired directly to your breaker panel.
Well, I could see where obvious cost savings, because I'm sure the fixtures are not cheap, but no good fixture is cheap if it's automated or not.
Yeah, correct. Well, and actually this kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, the differences between traditional centralized lighting and now this lighting, which is
and when we say, so that system would be for like the tunable colors or the color product. Anything that's static white, in this case, we would still wire that as a panelized system. So there is still some centralized / panelized lighting in this house.
Right.
But all of the full color stuff gets wired hot. And then basically we can, go to the first fixture in line, and then you can do a room off of.
Now, one of the things we've learned the hard way is outlets. We do every outlet.
Well, and that's where I was going with the lamps and whatever
every
else.
Outlet.
Yeah, and in this case, maybe, I don't know if it's possible, but maybe there would be a way to do like a mixture of more traditional centralized lighting for that part of it, for like controlling the light switches, on and off. You can do a duplex outlet where the top one goes back to the centralized panel, but then the bottom one is always hot.
But
you run into some code issues.
The other side of it
dimming,
is
yeah,
he's
sure.
got
If you're dimming.
he's got bulb that's doing all the work, not the panel.
Which does make a huge difference for that. But the difference would be if it's not a bulb that you're dealing with, or if the fixture isn't a lamp that accepts a light bulb, for instance,
Modern bulb.
right? If it's something that has either a tiny bulb or something else that's maybe you're not even controlling that, maybe you're controlling something else, like turning on and off the power to a device of some kind. Having to go back to a central panel might be helpful.
Are there plug-in modules that will do the dimming for you that can add into the system?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. All of these companies, whether you base off a Control 4 panelized system, a Lutron panelized system, they all have that type of product.
Actually, in fact, I think Control 4 even has to where they have that duplex
outlet.
right?
They actually have an outlet. It's on and off. It's no
Zigbee,
dimming capabilities though.
Right. Which in that case, again, if you're going to be doing dimming, maybe the restriction is that it has to accept an Edison style bulb in that setup.
Well, and I think the Lutron might actually make one that does do dimming, but it has basically a lockout, some sort of physical lockout to where you can't plug something else into it.
I think I did see
you have
that,
to
yeah.
change. You would have to put their plug
Special plug
on the
onto
lamp,
right,
and then that way it can dim, and then you can't.
Well,
plug
that would be
something else
nice
into
because
it.
I've seen people try to put vacuum cleaners,
Exactly.
That
That's
makes it-
karaoke machines, and other
Yeah.
items into what becomes a dimmed outlet and cooks it.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to fry that
Yeah,
device.
you can't do it.
Real quick, what I want to do is I want to go over, because we actually have a couple comments in the chat section, which actually you've been in the chat already, so we're good there. So first off, we've got the experts. Thank you for telling us we didn't have any audio. Appreciate that. John Kennedy. Hey, John Kennedy's not in the office. He's working from home right now. So thanks for checking in, John. He's our South
salesman.
South salesman. Yeah. So he covers Texas and Oklahoma and
Tola.
Tola. Thank you. Yeah. Tola. Then of course we've got Mary Kolazinski. Did I pronounce that correctly? She says, "Hi guys, good luck with your venture. Appreciate that. Thank you very much." We've got Ellen, of course. Ellen, it's always great to see you in the chat. Thank you so much. And then of course we've got the experts. So the experts have a good point, and I want to follow through with this one. They're saying with indirect tunable lighting, why have the expense of tunable downlights? Now, I'm going to put out my thought process on this, and then I'd like to see both of your
I have an answer for it.
opinions for that. Myself, I see the indirect lighting not as the everyday lighting. I see that as something that's on in the background, helping to amplify the overall environment, whereas the actual downlighting or the can lighting in this case is the everyday lighting, the stuff that I'm turning on to be able to function in that space.
Yes.
Does that kind of?
I'm a firm believer in mystical ambiance.
Well, it depends on it depends on the mood. Really, is what it boils down to. We have some clients, the experts would be aware of that, want to receive all of their lighting via indirect lighting. They don't want to use can lights unless they're cleaning something or using it.
Well, okay, now
do I know this one? Do I know that one?
Yeah.
No, this is a fair one because when I do theaters,
Yep.
the theater proper is indirect except for service of the room where there's still cans in it just to be able to light the room up, go in there and do the work.
100%. And in spaces like that, I agree with 100%.
But I'll take it a step further. When you start looking at these tunable lighting products and you see these showrooms, you see these places that have done it and executed it properly, having downlights, like it all can flow together. And when you create a scene, it can be something incredible.
That's kind of
a mixture of the linear light
to speakers.
with the downlight. They could be different colors.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Back to speakers. How many speakers do you have in your car?
I don't know, 12.
You got a Jeep, doesn't matter.
I was gonna.
Here's the thing: in the early days of car audio, you had a pair of speakers. They put an additional pair in the back, and it wasn't to make it louder; it was to make it better fill.
Yeah.
And the exact same thing with lighting. If you look at his garage design, all those fixtures in the garage don't make it just brighter; they make it more even. So if you're going to do a task, if you're going to service a vehicle, you're not in shadows. It just makes life easier to have.
Right.
Those multiple fixtures.
Well, and actually, I'll even take it to the speaker idea back to when you're designing speaker systems for like restaurants. With restaurants, when you design speaker systems for those, you don't want to have one speaker here and one speaker over there because you're going to wind up with it's too loud right here and not loud enough over here.
Yeah, you've got hot spots when you talk
More
about
is always better.
And you spread out so that what you think should be 2 should be 8.
Yeah,
right?
restaurants a good example. Landscape audio is another great example.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people think I don't want 20 speakers in my backyard because my neighbors are going to hate me. No, your neighbors are going to love you because you put 20 speakers in your backyard and now you have the volume nice and low.
But you can hear it.
But you can hear it everywhere,
Well,
so you're not blasting.
You've both seen my backyard, which is no bigger than this room. And I've got 4 of the really nice Origin 6.5-inch two-ways in there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't bother my neighbors because I don't have to crank it up to get an even fill anywhere in the patio.
Yep.
Now, one of the things on here, speaking of outdoor audio, of course, this doesn't have your, and I'm assuming they just don't have it yet. You don't have your, what's the word I'm looking for
landscaping.
Thank you. Yeah. So they don't have. I'm assuming that's not done yet.
Correct.
That's
so
still
once
being
there's
worked
a
out.
landscape design, we'll go through the whole landscape audio process and the landscape lighting process.
So I think that we need to, and I'm thinking future here for everybody watching. When I'm assuming that they'll get to the landscape design probably after they break ground. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So we'll probably what I'm hoping to be able to do is the episode that we have for doing the landscape will be on site. I think that would be great for us to kind of be able to walk the grounds a little bit and get an idea for what they're trying to accomplish.
Well, and just a couple of design elements when we talk landscape lighting and we talk about landscape audio, we want audio in the front and audio in the back, and we would like to incorporate potentially that color even as you go from one space into the other.
Makes a huge difference.
So it's when you're walking up to the front door, it's even from walking outside to when you get inside, lighting and audio. So that's why there's a speaker right in the foyer. There's a light right in the foyer.
So there's one thing that I don't see on this. Actually, it's a slew of things I don't see in here. Is downlighting from the eaves.
So there is nothing on this print. That is one of the things we've discussed is doing full color downlights all the way around the perimeter of the house from the soffits.
That would be really nice.
That's more of an emergency lighting type thing. I prefer the wall wash, the
I agree
color
coming from the
Yes.
ground.
from the ground. Yeah.
Well, if you alternate like where they are on the like you've got one here and then your downlight is the next one.
It's being we'll end up.
I'm going to
putting
go
lights.
with Austin on this one. To me, the overhead lighting should be for emergency purposes, for either task lighting or to get somewhere or to turn on when the cops got to find the house.
It will be there for sure. We'll put it in. I don't know if it'll end up being full color because the idea is we'll do the wall wash.
The wall wash, because you get that nice scallop effect coming up, just looks more dramatic than coming down.
Yeah, true.
Yep.
My opinion.
Very cool. So Now we have, stepping aside from the lighting just a little bit, we've got fans in here as well. And again, we are still early on in the design of this, and especially for the electrician and whatnot.
Yep.
So the location of the fans may or may not change. The size of the fans may, pardon me,
Will
may or may
certainly
not change.
change.
I'm sure it will. And of course the aesthetic of the fans as well. I like, personally, I like the big ass fans. I can say that because it's a name, and I'm not cursing on here. But I like that brand a lot. They have some really interesting. They don't have just the big ass fans. They also have like these nice shaped three blade.
That's the fans that we'll go with for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
And they integrate very nicely into control.
Internally. I prefer the smaller fans because they don't interfere with my audio.
Yep.
And I don't get shadows.
Yeah.
From my lighting.
Yeah.
And if you're in a smaller area like the kitchen,
there's nothing more that I hate than when you walk into a house and you see the stick-on fan controller on the wall.
Yeah. The little wireless
You
RF
go into
based whatever.
crazy houses and they have the little RF remote on the wall for the fans. Can't do it. So no, we will not be doing that in this.
what drives me nuts is just the flash of the blades under the lights.
Yeah, well, and it's hard to get
or
away
audio.
It's hard to get away from that in some cases because the lighting. Like for me, it's not so much that the fan, like if you had it up above, that the fan is blocking out the light, and so you see the shadow on the ground. I see the shadow along the edge of the room at the top of the room. With cans, it's easier to get away from that because they only shine down. They don't really shine out from the can, so you don't really run into that. But that also means you're putting the fan at the ceiling. And so depending on how high the ceilings are, did we figure out what we have for height in most of these spaces?
I think most of them are 12.
12. So something else I see in here, these squares, are those you or is that something else?
So yeah, those are actually really just representative. They are not anything that's going to physically be installed. That's counting for power supplies and modules and things like that for the lighting. That's just on there to visualize.
To remind yourself how many you're going to need.
Yep. We do have a good question about...
I was just going to say,
Yeah,
you want to answer that one?
Talking about the outdoor lighting, the holiday lighting. The two kind of go hand in hand if you want them to. So our idea is if we do a full color landscape, then we can do basically
Dmx design
that basically becomes your holiday lighting. We can program that.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Because I hate putting Christmas lights up.
Well,
and then there's also now a permanent install that we're looking into. I say permanent because I don't know much about it to speak on it, but there is a permanent holiday light system you can do on your house now.
That's kind of an interesting idea. Now, actually, talking about holiday lights, we missed it because one of our very own coworkers here at the office has gotten a little bit of YouTube attention because he does the Dmx Christmas lights, and he has them choreographed to music. And it's really, really cool. I'll have to find his information and put it down in the description of today's episode, because he goes in and you look at these videos and they're fantastic because they're choreographed perfectly to the music. You get some of them where it's like the Christmas tree lights where it's just draped lights from a single central pole, but it's all programmed to where he actually has video playing on those strips, and so it acts as like this little cylindrical.
Obviously, the office isn't keeping him busy enough.
At the very least, we'll work with the electrician to put outlets in the soffits and things like that in the necessary places. Personally, this is my opinion. I don't love the idea of full color landscape lighting. I just think it kind of takes away from the house. I think it looks a little cheesy. I like white. I think white is very elegant when it comes to landscape lighting.
Yeah,
Whereas if you start
my
put
trees are
colors
all
in
uplit with
trees-
white. My house walls are uplit with RGB.
Okay, and that's where I would say I would be. I think the trees and the landscape itself should be.
I'm also, honestly, for Christmas, I'm a big fan of just white lights for Christmas as well.
Mm-hmm. So something that I'm thinking of here, this comes down to less of a aesthetic thing and more of a service thing. What I would see, and again, we don't have the landscape, design, so we don't have all of that stuff. However, I would want to put some kind of spotlight system on any of the utilities that I have externally. So, for instance, you've got some AC systems here, or when the pool goes in,
what you don't see is pool equipment.
Right, the pool equipment, wherever that's going to live, whatever case that's at. We talked about last time how we have the closet for all of the equipment is here, and we're talking about running the outdoor speaker wires and whatever else over to this location. Again, I would put a service light of some kind in that space outside, because and it's not necessarily because someone might need to be working on it when it's dark. It's more that if something is happening, something weird, hey, I heard a weird noise in those areas, let me go ahead and turn on the service lights and look at the cameras and see if something's out there.
So you're telling me you've never had to go out to your air conditioner, air handler, pull the side panel off, and trip that solenoid to make the AC come on?
This I have
at 2 in the morning.
I have had to do that, and that service light would be super helpful in that application.
Yes, it certainly beats the flashlight on my iPhone while I'm trying to take it all apart.
Exactly, yeah, and that's in my case, anyways. And granted, in those areas you have the soffit lights that would be shining down. So maybe that would cover what the necessary thing is in those areas. But for me personally, when I build my own house, that's going to be one of the things that I put out there.
And that's not, at this point of the process, that's easy to add. Adding that 10 years from now, not so easy.
I hadn't thought of that, but I could definitely see the need for that one.
I mean, honestly, for something like that, it works out really well. We're getting pretty close to our hour here, guys. We're about 7 minutes out. One last thing that I do want to talk about, and Brent, you may have your last thing as well, the patio. Now, right now, of course, in this design, we have full color, light fixtures for the patio.
Yep.
There will be a pool in this case.
There will be.
Did I hear that correctly?
As well as a dock.
As well
now,
as a dock.
Is this a screened-in pool or is this an open-air pool?
It's going to be an open-air pool, but remember, the lanai is screened with the push of a button because we're doing motorized screens on the back of the lanai.
All in these areas here. In fact, I think you said there was going to be a door here and here, if I remember correctly.
That's correct.
Yeah. So now the pool, depending on the brand of pool controller and whatever, and the lighting that they have in the pool, hopefully you'll be able to tie that into the rest of all of this.
Yeah, we'll integrate all of that as well.
The one thing I would do is plan for additional stainless steel or chromium poles to do the bistro lighting in the back. Mm-hmm. The long hanging lights.
Sure.
Because that really does add a tremendous amount of mystical ambiance.
Yeah, it does add some look to it.
And you do have to plan for the outlets along the soffit there.
Now, do you remember how far away the dock is from the house?
I don't. So the dock is actually, the water line I don't think is very far.
Okay.
But the dock has to go out pretty far because of the location. It's a pretty shallow area.
The water line along that road is going to have to be 80 feet on the deep side.
Yeah, so the dock itself has to go out a pretty good distance.
Right, so you'll have to go even further out than what's here. Yep. So in that application then, when you're talking the different types of technologies that are out there, we have either like a 2-wire or a 3-wire communication to each fixture, or there's the wireless one as well. Do they have anything for the wireless that would assist with getting the signal from that, at least from the house? Because I'm assuming it's fairly mesh based in some fashion.
I'm not sure.
No, I have to find out for sure.
That's a good question.
Or do you go centralized lighting there just to make sure it's going to work every time?
You most likely just go to some sort of panelized system at that point.
Well, to coming from my thought process, I like to be outside when it's getting dark and you see the lights on in those areas, and if you're entertaining, it would be nice to have the ability.
I saw those no-see-em bites on you last week.
Okay,
maybe not.
Well, here's the thing. I like to be outside. The bugs also like me being outside.
It would be cool to have the full dock, color changeable too.
See, what I'm saying is if you have your dock set up here, so here's your pylons and stuff, and you've got the entire length of it. If you could run an actual row of lights along this entire length underneath, shining down towards the water. And again, I know that the salt water and the brackish water in that area is going to eat those things, for lunch. But when it does work, for the short amount of time that it will work, that would look amazing.
I like the idea of doing accent puck lights pointing up and lights going.
If you look at the Metra Heiss Marine line, that would be a good answer for that.
Yeah.
Your biggest limitation there is going to be distance of the linear light. I think you're probably going to be limited to 5 meters.
They do have the pucks, RGB pucks now, which fairly new, which helps resolve that. You're still going to have to figure out a best way to get Wi-Fi out there to control it.
Yeah.
Well, and we'll be running out. we'll definitely be running network out to the dock. I don't know if it'll end up being fiber or if it'll be like a direct burial cat.
Fiber.
It'll probably be fiber.
Yeah. Now with the
Maybe both.
the lighting systems that you're looking at, the linear lighting, is it tracing or is it fixed? So meaning to where can you have like different color lights trace along the length, or is it to where the entire length is red, green, or blue?
I think for the most part it's fixed.
Okay.
Like a fixed color.
Whatever that term is.
They might do might do
static.
chasing
Static,
and things like that. That's kind of
The
more
chasing
of a novelty at this
chasing
point.
is a lot like Flash on a website. It looks cool the first 2 times you've
Yeah,
seen
it's
it,
a novelty.
and then after that, it's like, yeah.
Well, my thing goes back to holiday. That because for the holidays and stuff, if you had some of that the tracing lights for the outdoor spaces, it would be kind of nice to be able to create something like that
you could do
for
something.
Especially for the dock for the length of it.
All right, so one last thing that I want to do is I want to give kind of a timeline for the project.
Yeah. So, and actually, this is really good for us to talk about. So, we don't really know quite yet when we're breaking ground. Correct? We're still working on permits right now.
So next
did I hear
stage
right?
is permitting, but the tentative date at this point, which obviously anybody that's done any type of build like this knows that nothing is
Well, you have to deal with the St. John's Water Management District.
nothing is exact, but right now the hope is that we could be done midsummer next year.
Midsummer. So,
I think that's optimistic, but okay.
well, and for what to be hopeful about this, when as soon as you actually break ground, things go very quickly, and then they go super slow for a little while.
Have you looked at the supply chain lately?
This is very true.
Well, and that's actually a good thing to talk about. So when we do a project like this at this point, we didn't used to have to order the product immediately. Now we're to the point where as soon as the design's done, we're ordering product, even if the house is not going to be done. Like even if we're going to sell,
Because it's the only way you can ensure it's
the only
going
way
to
we
be
can-
there
we
when
can
you
get
need
there.
it.
Exactly. So we're close to actually ordering product for this at this point.
Yeah, so you're once you have the final plan for it, which to be honest is really helpful, because how many times, Brent, have you started a project, or Austin, have you started a project with somebody, you've gone to place the order now that you're at that stage, and either the thing's not available or something new has happened, and now your entire design is basically thrown out the window.
Oh, I've cut speaker rings out of the ceiling because the speakers were discontinued.
Yeah.
TV sizes back in the days of 4x3.
Right.
If you built a cabinet for a specific TV, you better have
That
TV.
Yeah. Yeah, no, things, and then in this case where you would have the final design and the stuff ordered, I mean, that's super helpful, because then you know what you're getting yourself into. Well, pardon me. You have a better idea of what you're getting yourself into.
Well, look at the big advantage he has now over what we had 5 years ago with our mutual job, where now, because you can DMX all this stuff, you don't have to hardwire every single fixture.
Right. Yeah.
Back to a centralized panel.
Yeah, correct.
In one room alone, we've got 6 can groupings in the ceiling,
Yeah, correct.
just because of the size of the room and what they might do with it. So
Yep.
it's not just cans. Yes, they are controlled frequently as one load,
Yep.
but they can also be broken out and are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and in this case, in our case, we have zones of lights that we can individually control. They don't normally control them individually, but they can.
Sometimes they can be.
But the thing is this is like in the micro scale, to where you can zoom all the way down.
Which
to
is just so
individual
much more flexible than what we dealt with 5-6 years ago.
So a question I would pose to the audience at this point
Yep.
is, knowing the timeline, knowing where we're at now, is there anything specific that they would like us to cover from this project? I mean, we pretty much have full reins. We have an idea of what we want to do. We're going to have you guys out to the job site pretty much through every aspect. But if anybody has any suggestions of, video topics, I think we're pretty much open to suggestions.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a really good thing. In fact, there's actually one that I have that, Brent, you brought it up a while ago on one of the shows, and I kind of poo-pooed it a little bit, because I thought that's kind of in the danger zone, to quote Kenny Loggins, of topics.
First off, I'm impressed you can do that.
Because
that was
Kenny Loggins
before you were born.
Yeah. So for that type of topic is a little bit of a touchy subject, because we're getting into legalities of things. But what the next phase is right now is you're going to be talking to getting the different approvals from the counties and the state, and like you said, the St. John's
Water management district,
water management, whatnot.
That's for the dock.
So one of the things that we talked about doing was dealing with those bureaucracies, dealing with those getting those.
And it's those
handled.
bureaucracies.
Yes.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and what that looks like as an integrator going through that process. So, and again, this is something that I'm not even sure of if we're going to do or not, but I think that it would be pretty cool. Now looking at it from this angle, before we were just going to be kind of talking about it, but now if we are actually going through it.
Another interesting thing would be, obviously we're not an electrician, so we can't install a lot of this high voltage stuff. So what the conversations look like between us and the electrician to make sure that this all gets deployed
properly. And that's
properly.
intriguing, because at least in our case, we're lucky. Our electricians
we have on staff
have been with me for years, working on these jobs with me for Vantage and Crestron, and I don't have to be overly defined. On the one job that he and I both worked on beachside, we had to sub out because everybody's just swamped. And it was a battle occasionally with the electrician to get what I want. Nobody needs that. And we've already run into situations where we're already short of wires.
Yes. Yeah, we've had to find extra wires in different areas.
Or give up outlets to get extra wires.
Right. So, yes, what Austin was saying, I 100% agree with. If anybody is watching this and you have some stages of this process that you would like to see specifically.
Or, I mean, we brought up working with the electrician, but there's not just an electrician you have to work with. Working with
plumbers,
potentially around other trades, working with the superintendent of the job, working with the builder directly.
I would love to have a conversation with the superintendent. Yeah, I think that would be something that would be super helpful for anybody out there doing installations yourselves. And if you haven't yet created a relationship with the superintendents that you work with, on a regular basis, that's super helpful. That's something that should be done. I think
things we worked on our job together that I never thought of in the past. The toilet. Who'd have thought a toilet would have an automated lid and built-in Bluetooth music?
Yeah, true. Yeah, exactly. So
and draws 1,500 watts for the seat heater.
Or controlling the lighting in a mirror.
Yep.
In the bathroom.
Or there's one job that you and I were working on and are going to be working on where the shower is a fully automated shower system. It's got the full rain head, and then it's got the multiple heads throughout the entire rest of the shower.
Full color and
it's got RGB lighting in it. It's got whatever else you can from the voice command tell it to go ahead and start through Alexa or Josh or whatever tell it to start working. So
I worked on one. It was either a Kohler or a Moen. I don't remember which, but I had to network a box up in the ceiling to give it Bluetooth or to give it MP3 audio in the shower control.
Yes. Yep.
The rumor is Kohler's going to be doing an open API for their showers.
Really?
That's what they told me at the builder show.
Oh, that would be cool, because with the open API, you could do pretty much any, especially with like Crestron.
They pretty much said it was happening, but they didn't promise a timeline.
Yeah, of course. Which means that.
Well, okay. Remember, Sonos promised that once too. And companies were working on it, and then suddenly it was.
Well, we can hope.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be cool to have your shower tied into your morning scene on your Control 4 or your Crestron.
Right.
I assume you have music in your bathroom.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have music in your bathroom? No.
Does my phone count?
No.
No. Okay. Well, then no.
Your lights, you just walk in and do this and it doesn't happen?
Motion sensors.
Turning on the toe kicks in the bathroom so you don't get blasted
motion sensors under the bed, so when you get up, the light turns on so you don't trip over
Pathway lighting.
Lighting. I mean, and you
all
can
this
get
comes down to programming.
Yeah. Which, in a lot of this, of course, the benefit of this house being a demo house is that you'll be doing some of the really cool programming stuff that you don't normally get to do in other people's houses because they don't want to spend the money on actually doing that. So hopefully we can see some really cool, programming stuff being done as well. That I'm looking forward to all of that. Okay, gentlemen, we do have to wrap it up today. Everybody who's watching, thank you so much, and everybody who commented and asked questions in the chat, again, always thank you so very much for that. If you are watching this after the fact, feel free to leave your comments over in the comment section down below. Of course, come back this Friday where we'll be talking about the ASP603W. Again, I know it's a little bit of a stretch, but we don't have a lighting product, but this is a power product that we have that has some automation built into it.
And it is fun.
It is fun. It really is. But so come back this Friday where we're going to talk about that. Come back next Wednesday. We already know what next Wednesday is. Next Wednesday is going to be, and I've already forgotten it.
I was going to say, because I don't know what next Wednesday
No,
is.
hold on one second. Next Wednesday is going to be on...
We had a list of half a dozen topics.
No,
Which one did you pick?
It's going to be on surveillance. It's going to be the one based on what's the difference between cloud and local
Oh,
storage
and
for
that's
surveillance.
right. That's because of what just happened with Insteon.
It's just with what's just happened. So we'll talk about that.
You need to do a surveillance design.
We
for
do,
the demo
yes.
house.
Yes, exactly. So we do need to talk about that on this. And I think that would be good for us to do and wrap into...
That could be like more of a half episode.
Yeah, a half episode, but wrap it into something else with it as well. So
do
you know what
have-
we didn't talk about was blinds. We were supposed to talk about blinds today.
There's just too much to do with lighting.
There's too much to do with lighting.
But blinds are super cool.
Yeah, blinds are super, super cool.
So what shows are you going to? Are you going to Tola?
I will be at the Tola show
Which
in
is?
Dallas, which is May... Oh, boy.
It's 1st through 5th, I think.
No, I think it's the 3rd through the 6th. I'll have to double check.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll be at the Tola show in Dallas. If you're in the Tola area, Elite 3 Pro, I believe, is the...
May 3rd to 5th.
Thank you, May
See?
3rd to the 5th. There we go. Thank you very much. So May 3rd to the 5th, we're actually going to be... does it say where it's at?
It's in Dallas.
It's in Dallas.
TolaExpo.com.
TolaExpo.com. I will be there for that one.
Infocom.
Infocom, of course, the first of June. Which, if you have an opportunity, I've been talking about a project that I've been working on now for almost.
It's a secret.
It's a secret project that I've been working on for over a year. We're going on 2 to 2.5 years now, and I've been hinting at it every now and then on the episodes. If you're curious what that is, come to the Infocom show. Super excited about that. Yeah, come to the Infocom show. Actually, you won't even have to see me. It's going to be on the floor.
Not gonna be hidden?
Come track me down so I can tell you about it because it's my baby. But super excited about it. Now, Brent, you're going to be
In Barcelona for ISE, which is the 10th through the 13th of May.
Yep.
In beautiful Barcelona.
Yep. And then both of us are going to be at the CEDIA show.
End of September.
End of September, if I remember correctly.
And who knows where else yet?
Yeah. We still have plans for everything. If you are going to be at any of those shows, hit us up while we're there or beforehand so we can go ahead and set aside some time. Of course, wherever we go, we'd love to meet up and maybe get some lunch or dinner or whatever with whoever's going. But with that said, everybody, thank you for joining us today here. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the little bell notification to let you know whenever we do go live, which of course is every Wednesday at 3 p.m. And every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern time as well. So go ahead and do that for us if you would. And Brent, shall we go ahead and sign off?
I'm Brent.
I'm Adam.
Reboot early.
Reboot often.
Don't cut your wires too short.
Turn off CEC.
Call tech support. HD base T wire length.
Make sure it's longer than 20 meters.
And that's Austin.
And that's Austin. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Again, come back on Friday. We'll talk about the ASP603W, and come back next week. We'll talk about surveillance.
You didn't add me to the credits.
I mean, you're
not part of the real
talent.
show.
You're part of the talent, anyways. Thanks, everybody.